Stop trying to fix that person. Stop trying to understand why they can look into your eyes, lie to your face, go out and sleep peacefully that same night. You spent years looking for a childhood trauma, a psychological explanation, a repressed event that would justify their behavior. It doesn't exist. And that is exactly where the error draining your energy lies. You are trying to decipher, with the yardstick of a human being with a soul, the behavior of someone who perhaps isn't operating by the same internal gears as you. What if I told you that Dolores Cannon, one of the greatest hypnotherapists of the last century, spent decades collecting reports in thousands of deep regression sessions about a category of individuals who walk among us, occupy bodies, fulfill social roles, but do not carry the same essence that you carry? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 5 signs she mapped out. Silent signs, almost invisible to those who don't know how to look. And once you recognize the first one in someone in your circle, you won't be able to unsee it. Throughout her life, Dolores Cannon developed a technique called Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, or QHHT. Her method was different. She wasn't interested in making the client remember their childhood. She took the person to a state of consciousness far below dreaming, a zone where the rational mind sleeps and something deeper begins to speak. And in that territory, session after session, with people who didn't know each other, in different cities, in different decades, she began to receive the same information, repeated with a consistency that gave her chills. Earth, these accounts said, is a school, a dense space designed to accelerate the learning of consciousness through pain, contrast, and relationship. Except a school has students in different grades, and there are also people circulating in the courtyard who are not students. Cannon began to describe that not all human bodies house the same thing inside. Some carry old, veteran, wise souls. Others carry young souls, eager for experience. And there is a third category, rarer and more disturbing, which she began to call, with great caution, individuals without authentic spiritual essence. Complete, functional, intelligent human bodies, with careers, families, and LinkedIn profiles, but without that which makes a human being on the inside. Before your rational mind freezes, breathe. I'm not asking you to believe in anything. I'm asking you to observe patterns. Because if the description of these patterns matches the description of the person who has been keeping you up at night for months, maybe you aren't dealing with someone difficult. Maybe you are dealing with something structurally different. And this difference explains why none of your strategies, none of your conversations, none of your nights crying into your pillow managed to touch this person's core. You were trying to warm something that has no internal fireplace, and that is what the next 5 signs are about. The first sign, the most silent and the most devastating, is the absence of true empathy. Pay attention to the word true, because it changes everything. These people aren't cold. They don't walk around huffing with anger. Often, on the contrary, they are friendly, sociable. They say the right phrases at the right moments. They message you on your birthday. They cry at funerals. They hug you when you receive a diagnosis. The gesture is impeccable. The script is followed. But if you close your eyes and feel, you realize there is nobody home behind that gesture. It's like a rehearsed actor. The word arrives, but the vibration doesn't come with it. Dolores Cannon described this as mimicked empathy, a learned catalogue of social behaviors that the individual copied by observing others throughout their entire life, testing what works, archiving the reactions that generate approval. It's like someone who studied the manual on how to be human very well, but was never human on the inside. Have you ever experienced that scene? You tell someone about a huge tragedy, a loss, a betrayal, a job loss. The person responds with all the correct phrases. Wow. Imagine how you're feeling. I'm here for you. That's so unfair. And yet, when you hang up the phone, you feel emptier than before you called. You feel a slight confusion. Shouldn't I be feeling better? Except you aren't. You're feeling worse. This isn't you being dramatic. This is your field picking up the absence of resonance. Words were exchanged, but no real emotion crossed the wire. And your unconscious, which is much older and wiser than your rational part, registered the void. It knows. It has always known. The problem is that your head keeps trying to convince your body that, no, she is a good person, she said all the right things. And while this internal fight happens, you bleed silently in the relationship. The second sign is the strange, almost alien relationship these people have with truth and lies. For someone with an awakened spiritual essence, lying carries weight. There is physical discomfort, a tightness in the chest, a difficulty looking someone in the eye, an emotional residue that stays for days, weeks. The lie scratches from the inside. This isn't religious morality. It's an energetic signature. The nervous system of someone who has a soul recognizes a lie as dissonance, a noise within their own body. But for these individuals, Dolores Cannon describes, the truth has no weight, it has no gravity. It is merely a tool, a gear that can be used when convenient and discarded when it gets in the way. If telling the truth brings an advantage, they tell the truth. If telling a lie brings an advantage, they tell a lie. If telling a half-truth is even more efficient, that's what they do. And most disturbingly, without any physical sign, no averted gaze, no hesitation in the voice, no residue afterward. You leave the conversation swearing that it was all true, and 3 weeks later, you discover that every word was designed millimetrically to produce a specific reaction in you. And this is where these people become the most efficient manipulators on the planet. They aren't lying with effort, like an ordinary human being tries to lie and slips up. They are simply constructing the version of reality that serves the objective of the moment. They adapt the story for the audience. They tell one version to their mother, another to their partner, another to their boss, another to their friend. And they don't lose sleep because there is no internal moral center complaining. It's like asking a calculator to feel ashamed of the result. The machinery wasn't designed for that. And when you start to notice these inconsistencies, when you start to put the pieces together and present the evidence, that's when you encounter the other bizarre phenomenon. They don't confess. They rewrite. They look you in the eye and tell you that you misunderstood, that you're confusing things, that your memory is failing. You start to doubt your own sanity. Welcome to the territory of industrial-scale gaslighting. And in the end, you are left with the emotional trail. They move on light, like someone washing their hands. The third sign is an energetic dynamic that Dolores Cannon described with a word that scares many people: parasitic. And it's necessary to understand this carefully because it isn't an accusation, it's mechanics. These individuals, according to the session reports, cannot generate emotional and spiritual energy from the inside out. They cannot produce their own light. So they extract. They extract silently, sophisticatedly, without you noticing the drain at the time. And the pattern is almost always the same at the beginning of the bond. It's maximum intensity. You are the most special person in the world. You are the soulmate they've waited for their whole life. You are the best friend they never had. The messages are constant, the compliments are superlative, the interest in you is obsessive. You feel, for the first time in a long time, truly seen, truly chosen. Except that isn't recognition. That is scanning. The person is mapping your fissures, your fears, your dreams, your buttons. They are designing the key that opens your door. And the moment you hand over your heart, the picture changes. The tone drops. The interest withers. The frequency of messages falls. The small criticisms begin, the contempt disguised as a joke, the long silences that make you chase after them, the episodes of heat followed by ice. It is the cycle that trauma therapists call intermittent reinforcement, and which Dolores Cannon described as the method by which the parasitic structure keeps the food source trapped. Because, you see, when affection is constant, you are satiated. When affection is intermittent, you remain in a state of chronic waiting. And the state of chronic waiting generates exactly the type of dense, anxious, obsessive emotional energy that these people feed on. You wake up thinking about them. You sleep thinking about them. Your mental field is entirely occupied by them. And at the end of the month, you look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself. You've lost weight, lost focus, lost your glow. They, on the other hand, are fine. They've never been better. The fuel is being transferred, and you are the matrix being emptied. The fourth sign is perhaps the most frustrating for those trying to save these people, and Dolores Cannon insisted on it quite a bit: the absence of real spiritual transformation. Have you seen this scene? The person reads the books, attends the retreats, does family constellations, holistic therapy, spiritist sessions, Kambo ayahuasca, vipassana meditation. They know all the terms. They quote Eckhart Tolle at dinner. They talk about the higher self, about cutting auric cords, about the shadow. They appear spiritually sophisticated, almost more advanced than you, but beneath the perfect discourse, their behavior is exactly the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They continue betraying, manipulating, victimizing themselves, blaming others, avoiding responsibility, draining whoever gets close. Nothing changes at the core. The aesthetic changes, the vocabulary changes, the profile picture changes, the center remains frozen. This happens because, according to the reports Canon compiled, spiritual evolution is not about accumulating information. It's about digesting experience. It's about taking a pain, sitting with it, being crushed by it, and emerging on the other side with a different internal frequency. A human being with an awakened essence does this, even without therapy, even without formal spirituality. Life hits, they change inside. It's organic. But the individuals Dolores described seem incapable of completing this digestive cycle. Experience enters and leaves like food passing through the gut without being absorbed. They can go through absurd breakups, painful losses, public humiliations, moments that would break anyone inside, and the next day they are performing the same version of themselves, with the same pattern, the same triggers, the same repertoire, as if the experience hadn't happened on an internal level, as if the deep emotional record was switched off. And that is what makes any attempt of yours to help this person grow a doomed attempt. You are trying to plant a seed in ground that doesn't absorb water. It's not your failure, it's the geology of the terrain. The fifth sign closes the puzzle and is the most painful to accept when you are already entangled with someone like this. The inability to establish authentic emotional connections. And again, pay attention to the word authentic. These people can indeed form bonds. They marry, they have children, they have friends, they have business partners. But if you look closely at the architecture of these bonds, you realize there is no real intimacy. There is utility, there is possession, there is status, there is convenience. The romantic partner is chosen for beauty, for money, for social access, for the ability to serve as a mirror for the ego. Children are seen as an extension of their own image. Friends are chosen for strategic advantage. There is no real vulnerability in saying, I don't know, I'm afraid, I need you. There is no shared silence that only two souls know how to sustain. There is no feeling, when you look at the other, of looking through a window into an entire universe. There is a well-crafted surface and nothing underneath. Have you ever been with someone like that? That relationship where even being together you felt alone. You shared a bed, shared the bills, shared vacation plans, but never shared that deep silence where two beings recognize each other. You tried deeper conversations and they slipped away. You tried vulnerability and it was ignored or used against you later. You tried to create rituals of intimacy, and the other reacted with discomfort, with scorn, with deflection. And the cruelest part, you started to doubt your own ability to love. You started to wonder if the problem was you, if you were asking for too much, if this deep connection thing was your invention. It wasn't. It never was. What was missing was on the other side, not yours. You were trying to make love with someone who has the hardware to love, but doesn't have the software installed. And no matter how much you force compatibility, the system simply doesn't run. Now, reaching this point in the video, it's natural for you to be feeling a mixture of things. Maybe relief because finally someone named what you lived through. Maybe anger because you identified specific people in each of these 5 signs. Maybe fear because you're thinking, oh my God, what if I am this person? Breathe. If you are asking yourself if it's you, it probably isn't. That very question, that very discomfort, is a sign of an ignited consciousness. Individuals without essence don't spend sleepless nights wondering if they are hurting someone. They sleep. You don't. That is the difference. And this is where Dolores Cannon's final message becomes very important, because she always insisted that the goal of this knowledge is not to create paranoia, not to go hunting for soulless people in the world, not to label everyone who disappointed you as a spiritually empty being. The goal is discernment, and discernment is different from judgment. Judgment is closing the heart and pointing a finger. Discernment is opening the eyes and choosing where to invest your energy. You don't need to expose these people, denounce them, shout at them. You need to silently remove your field from their field. You need to reduce access. You need to stop giving away intimate information. You need to stop expecting from them what they structurally cannot deliver. A dry faucet isn't going to start gushing water just because you cried under it. It is dry. Accepting the nature of the source is the first act of spiritual sanity. And at the same time, you begin to redirect your energy toward the bonds that carry real resonance, the people with whom silence is comfortable, the people who listen without preparing an answer, the people who return to you effortlessly, the same frequency you emanate. They exist. You've bumped into some of them. Maybe you didn't invest in them because you were too busy trying to be approved of by those who didn't see you. Protecting your energy in the end isn't about building thick walls against the world. It's about developing the fine sensitivity to recognize in seconds when an encounter adds to you and when an encounter subtracts from you. You know, your body knows. That slight drop in your stomach when a certain person's name appears on your phone, that isn't anxiety without a cause, that is data. That inexplicable tiredness after an hour with a certain person, that isn't a lack of coffee, that is a drain. That feeling of shrinking near someone, that isn't your insecurity. That is your field contracting out of an instinct for preservation. You have, within you, one of the most sophisticated reading systems in the universe. It's called intuition, and it has never been wrong. What was wrong was your rational part, which insisted on ignoring what the body had already diagnosed. You can close this video now, follow your routine, and tomorrow morning wake up and message that person, again with the hope that this time it will be different. It won't. Their internal gears are the same gears as yesterday, as last year, as the last decade. Or you can close this video, stay in silence for a few minutes, let the information sink in, and make a decision that your soul has been asking of you for a long time. Reduce access, reorganize the circle, return to inhabiting your own body. Trust for the first time in a long time what your intuition already knew. Dolores Cannon didn't leave this knowledge to make you afraid of the world. She left it to return you to the center of your own field. The world does indeed have individuals who operate by another frequency, but the world also has, and in much greater quantity, whole beings lit up, ready to recognize you. The problem was never the existence of the former. The problem was how much of your time you spent trying to be loved by them. Enough. Now you know how to look. And those who know how to look choose, they decide.